Hey you, it's true! With a first look at the new upcoming SSR Murasaki SHIKIBU, an Earth unit with a very decent speed of 482 and a partial guard support skill set. Let's check her out. And her first skill is also her last. No, just kidding, that's just the name, last word, and this skill costs 0 spirit, 50 time units and deals 600% damage to one enemy, ignoring skin passive skills and counterstance status effects. Not much to say about this skill, very decent damage output, especially for 0 spirit and low time units, but also nothing too crazy there. Armor isn't ignored and also it is not an execute skill. This skill is locked after use until she uses her second skill, and that is called Healing Words, and has the exact same cost as her first skill, also 0 spirit, 50 time units, and this one heals 2 allies for 800% of the user's attack. So if Murasaki is fully leveled, this should be a full heal, even on guards potentially. It also purifies those 2 allies, also grants them stealth with a stealth shield. This skill is unlocked each time the user damages an enemy with an attack, although, spoiler alert, her first active skill is her only damage dealing skill, so that is just the last word, and so she will most likely switch back and forth between this last word and healing words skills. Now you might ask yourself, what about the other 2 skills then? Both of them are actually instant skills, so cost only 1 time unit. And the first one is called Plot Twist, costing 2 spirit and exchanging 1 enemy with an imposter. However, the exchanged enemy will only be sent to next in line of enemy reinforcements. So this is not a random banish like we've seen with Tristan or Cleopatra's Dark Mirage. However, the twist on this skill, I guess, is that it also adds 1 imposter to a random place in line of enemy reinforcements. So this is basically a double imposter creation. This is only usable if there are 4 enemies on the battlefield and only usable once per battle. And of course will fail if the target is immovable. Now moving on to her only active skill that actually generates 2 spirit. And this one is called Red Herring, and I guess it is kind of fitting that this character, whose backstory is that she's kind of a writer, has probably the longest active skill description I've seen so far in Evertale, although that might be due to some of the line breaks, but let's get into it. The skill is unlocked whenever a non-conjured ally on the battlefield is defeated or sacrificed by any source while Murasaki is on the battlefield. Plus, it is also unlocked at dawn, so the 2 active instant skills and her high speed or very decent speed might make her interesting to be a starter unit. But what does this Red Herring do? Murasaki will become a guardian, a 100% guardian at that, after this skill is used whenever she is hit by an attack and defeated or survives with 25% or less of max HP. She is sacrificed and a copy of the user, so Murasaki, is added to next in line of ally reinforcements. So besides no longer being a non-conjured unit, she will be exactly the same and have all the features of the original Murasaki. Where it gets really interesting is the part that when she dies in this way, all allies become enraged and have their current time units reduced by 100. So this is quite powerful, possibly giving your entire team the turn straight away. However, while executes might still or should still trigger her survival, so something very effective against that, if Murasaki is burning when she goes below 25% of max HP, none of these effects will actually trigger. So that is the big kink in her armor, and that comes of course with the Earth theme. Looking at her passives next, we have the epic narrative. She gains stealth, a stealth shield and endure, and allies gain spirit until ally spirit reaches 8. This is both a dawn and an entry effect. Murasaki also cannot be defeated by damage from poison status effects. This is a bit meh though, because she only has the endure. And then comes the awakening scalings. If you fully awaken Murasaki, then she has a 100% chance to immediately have her time units reduced to 0 after the first time an ally is defeated while Murasaki is on the battlefield. And of course, this is very, very helpful in using her red herring skill that is exactly unlocked by such a thing. Of course, only if that ally that is defeated is non-conjured, which is not specified in this passive. So that means if a conjured unit, for example a Dark Sun Wukong copy, is defeated, she will still immediately get the turn. However, she will possibly not be able to use the red herring, which is unfortunate because if a conjured ally dies later on, she will no longer get this turn straight away. And then we have the Venom Barrier. Unless Murasaki is burning, she is immune to stun effects. Also something that is becoming more common with these Earth type units. All allies gain 35% damage reduction from attacks while this unit is on the battlefield. This is also helpful for her own survival because she doesn't have any more damage reduction than that even when she is a guard. This barrier cannot stack with other ally barrier type skills. However, with armor, this still works on top. Now, whenever an ally takes damage from an attack, a random non-burning enemy becomes mega poisoned for 200 time units. So this is a very, very low threshold. So I could see Murasaki being quite the mega poison spreader. Mega poison, of course, dealing 20 times the damage of normal poison. But yeah, that's already her entire skill set, and she is a bit of a mixed bag, it seems. She is that kind of supporter and also guard, but a lot will come down to her hate levels. Her having to unlock the red herring repeatedly to keep staying alive and keep occasionally guarding and supporting your team is something to look out for, especially considering that the red herring isn't triggered by any or isn't unlocked by the death of any conjured allies on her team. I also would have liked it more if, while she is a guard, she gains some additional damage reduction effects. There are already, of course, a lot of skills around that ignore that, but for those skills that do not ignore that, it would be kind of nice if she can stay above the 25% HP for a little bit and guard your team for a while longer. Now the plot twist skill, her only skill that actually costs spirit, is very nice. However, it is just a pushback, so it is not a banish, and that is already a bit of a limit, I think. I think they wanted to balance that, considering that she also adds one imposter to a random place in line of enemy reinforcements, so that could definitely help your team down the line later on. I find the usable once per battle clause a little curious and am very, very much looking forward to see if this also applies to her newly conjured units, maybe, or copies of herself. Maybe Zigzag thought this would be too overpowered if it is not locked. But if this really is only a one-time use across all of Murasaki's copies, then this is quite the big limitation, I would say. A time lock would be a bit less punitive, but then again, this is not a unit that is really set up to be the same unit all the time, so I can see why this is harder to implement there. The red herring is nice, but yeah, it will depend a lot on whether she actually gets to use this a lot of times. Then it can be extremely disruptive for the enemy team, besides the plot twist, which is also somewhat disruptive. And of course, the healing words will give some nice help to your allies. I don't quite like that both of her first active skills, which are the ones that she will use if she cannot use any of the instant skills, are only possible to be used after the other, so a constant back and forth. This is also a bit limiting in the sense that if you have some allies that are close to dying, for example, that might need some purification from mega poison, stuff like that, she cannot use the healing words if she gets the turn and already used it on the turn before. Then she will have to use the last word and wait some time again to get the turn to yet again be able to use the healing words. So this is a bit of a limitation in terms of how flexibly she can react to situations on the battlefield. Now, when we compare her with the previously released support that was Light Ludmilla or Avatar Ludmilla, she has some advantages over that unit, don't get me wrong. She, however, also has some disadvantages, you know, the kind of burn vulnerability, and also that she is more niche than Avatar Ludmilla. Avatar Ludmilla, quite the universal unit, with some exceptions of course, and most importantly, Avatar Ludmilla works better without guards on the battlefield together with her, while Murasaki, for example, has the barrier also for guards, which is very helpful and might make her a very decent starter to bring back guards into the top meta as well. Let's see about that though. And what is also helpful, I think, or necessary to point out, is that Murasaki just cannot work with burn, obviously, and also sleep. Why is that? Because the kind of passive that mega poisons all the enemies doesn't stop for any sleeping units, the only exception being cursed sleep units. So if you have any water sleep type units on your team, the synergy with Murasaki will be very negative. So I would definitely not recommend for pulling her if you run a pure sleep team or a burn team. Now if you run poison, stealth, stun, stuff like that, it might be a different story again. And poison is quite strong right now, so let's see about that. However, we also still know that Mermaid will be coming after Murasaki, which will be a water sleep unit and might make sleep much more prevalent yet again in the meta. In terms of fully awakening prioritization, I think Murasaki is a unit that kind of needs that full awakening most of the time. There is some limited value that still comes about when she runs at just one copy, because also the awakening scaling is just about her getting the turn. So if you run her up front with just one copy and she survives until her turn, she can pull off the plot twist, she can pull off the red herring, become a bit of a guardian for some time, die again, come out again, and maybe hopefully give some spirit to your team, give some help to your team, and give some healing words to your team, but otherwise probably not staying alive for all that long, and also dealing very limited damage, obviously, with the last word skill. Also dying much more quickly. I do think one of her downsides is that she only comes with an endure effect. I would have wished for at least hold ground for her. Then again, if she gets to use the red herring, it doesn't really matter what happens at 1 HP, since she will die either way. This is just something in case she hasn't activated the red herring yet, which of course is basically her lifeline. Especially because she's also quite limited in how easily she can heal herself. So those are my first thoughts on Murasaki SHIKIBU. What are yours? Let me know in the comments. I react to all of them, and thanks to Helios for the skill visualizations shown in this video. One last thing, maybe I quite enjoy the art of this new unit, all three forms, quite aesthetic, so I hope Zigza will go into that route more often going forward. One can wish, right? Yeah, like and subscribe, all that good stuff, and as always, thanks for watching.